It's a little bit sad that the Bloodthirster isn't a more commonly picked unit because it is undoubtedly very iconic and cool, but here we are. It's just a little bit cost inefficient for how expensive it is. Hopefully that changes at some point in the future, but today we've got Koops taking on Rocket Roo in a land battle, of course. Khorne versus Norsca. So we've got this Bloodthirster here supporting a Hound force. We've got a couple of Chaos Warhounds and one unit of Flesh Hounds. A similar Hound force on the side here with a couple of Warhounds, a couple of Flesh Hounds, a Lord of Khorne, the champion of Khorne here, Chaos Lord. His dual axes, quite good overall, decent for his cost, relatively expensive for a kind of horse-type character, but still. Important line of Bloodletters, and we've also got the Hellforge host, so I kind of like this wide sort of mobile attack build with the Bloodthirster as a support piece for this. We know Norsca is pretty much guaranteed to bring a whole bunch of horsemen, and Rocket Roo does the smart thing and does just that. He's got some Horse Masters here. Yeah, 4 Horse Masters, 1 Horseman, a Throg, and then a front line of Marauders with some Ice Trolls, which is certainly an aggressive choice against faction with very strong fire damage units like Khorne, but there you go. Got some Ice Wolves as well. Let's get things rolling as these Hound forces get ready to attack. Bloodthirster out in the distance there, out in the far, far distance. Probably hard to see depending on the size of your screen, but some Javelin's going to rain in, do some decent damage. Of course, Javelin's high damage overall going to be pretty solid. Let's see how Koops approaches this. He's going to not overcommit his forces, be nice and patient, get a nice kind of surround position here, start to make some attack runs, but yeah, this unit of Hounds here manages to get the charge on the Ice Wolves, but a little bit overextended perhaps. Huge volleys of Javelins don't really land effectively. Maybe not as punished as they absolutely could have been, but the Ice Trolls do respond fairly quickly. The idea here is just to kind of flush the Horsemen away from the infantry line as much as possible. For Rocket Roo, you'd want to just continue to fall back with your infantry and make sure you're staying active with them and screening and not just sitting too passively here. Then come forward with your Horsemen like he's doing now and skirmish down this front line of Bloodletters as much as you can, because they definitely are going to blend through this Norscan infantry, but the Hounds eventually do find targets. See Flesh Hounds clashing with Ice Wolves, big old Hound force engagement, but I've specifically wanted to see this engagement for a while. The Flesh Hounds are quite a bit bigger than the Ice Wolves, but very comparable units actually in many ways. Hard to see on the red soil. Bloodthirster drops down. A couple of the Hounds here are going to get routed away. The Warhounds, of course, Flesh Hounds being demons, not exactly unbreakable, but will fight until the bitter end here. You can see one unit is starting to get banished there as they fight it out with some Ice Trolls, but the high damage and flaming attacks of the Bloodthirster will make it a potent piece against all these Ice Troll units. Hence the Plague of Rust here, Overcast, to bring its armor down. Very effective tactic against dragons and Griffin Lords historically, so I like to see that to screen that flying unit. Koops is going to do the right thing as well, which is just to fly away and let the uptime of that Plague of Rust expire before coming back to re-engage. In the meantime, his Bloodletters get into combat here. The Hellforge host in particular, if they can find trolls, they also have flaming attacks and very high damage, so they'll be able to just crush these Ice Trolls no problem. Also got Duel of the Fates here in the center. The 2 red lightsaber Khorne Lord and the 2-handed blue lightsaber of Throg here. I never thought Throg would be a Jedi, but there you go. With his Padawans here supporting, should be okay, but he's going to go ahead and nope out of that. Scroll of Shielding gets popped from the Metal Shaman Sorcerer here to help him perhaps tank out some damage of the Bloodthirster. The Javelin's also in position to support some fire in here. Really, all should focus fire on the Bloodthirster if possible, but Koops, again, going to avoid that engagement. Really smart play here. The Bloodthirster is a super expensive piece. Got to make sure to avoid taking unnecessary damage as much as possible. Here, it gets used to great effect to get a nice rear charge, a huge terror out on those Ice Trolls. We look at the far Ice Trolls, they were decisively defeated by the Hellforge host. No surprises there, and the Hounds that still remain, the Warhounds coming back from route, the Flesh Hounds still just providing some damage, slowing these units down and annoying them, allowing the Hellforge host to now get into combat here. The Horsemen definitely want to try and pull away. They will do just that, but the more they kind of kite away here, they're going to leave their non-mobile forces more or less out to dry. See the Bloodthirster and Lord of Khorne once again teaming up to take down the Icehorn Marauders and the Ice Trolls. Icehorn Marauders looking great in 4K, by the way. as they get mopped up by demons of Khorne there. They must have displeased the blood gods at some point. Perhaps this clan chose to support the Raven or something. Who knows? But or this Norscan tribe. Anyway. Yeah, Bloodletter's still fighting here. Hellforge Host just finishing off some more Marauders. Let's see. Their kill count is up to almost 100 there. Yeah, just now passing 100. Just about 800 damage value. I know some of you were saying you don't like the change on the unit card of showing damage value instead of kills. And yeah, I might agree with you a little bit there, but I'm not the mod author, so I gotta take what I can get. And, you know, hopefully the mod author will make it customizable in the future where, you know, using the mod... what is it? MCT. I forget the actual name of the thing, but it's the mod control panel or whatever it's called. Mod control tool. I forget. It's the one where you can switch the settings for mods. And hopefully, you know, there'll be some integration there at some point in the future. Who knows? Or maybe just CA will just make the UI, you know, better in general. We can wish. But regardless, the forces for Khorne looking pretty thin on the ground here. Bloodthirster has quite a bit of HP left, but the Bloodletters are getting pretty low. Another nice Plague of Rust here. Significantly debuff the armor. Bloodthirster still going to go for the engagement against Throg, of course. Huge charge bonus, massive flaming anti-large damage. Definitely put a beating on Throg, but it's also going to be taking some significant javelin damage in the meantime. Fight or Die also gets popped by Throg, and he will punch back reasonably hard. Lord of Khorne gets in there. He's up to 652 weapon strength. He'll also get some pretty good damage. Throg wisely disengages there. His Frostbite allows him to kind of dictate that. He leaves the Shaman Sorcerer to take a couple of huge hits right there and then immediately get routed. No surprises. The Bloodletters also continuing to try get into combat wherever they can. Javelin Horsemen have used up pretty much all of their ammunition, but Hellforge Host might get cycle charged to death here. We'll see. In the meantime, that Plague of Rust and the Javelins was enough to take down the Bloodthirster's HP pretty much almost completely. I mean, he's got, what, 1650 left-ish? Pretty tough stuff, but the Javelins are pretty much out of ammunition left as well. They're pretty much out of ammunition as well. My brain's getting a little bit scrambled, guys. I apologize. But the Bloodthirster also starting to disintegrate. You can see the effect popping there. And he will soon be gone, perhaps. Perhaps he can stabilize his leadership as he fights alongside Chaos Lord of Khorne. Thankfully, the Terror is enough to kick in, terrify away these Ice Trolls. Let's terrify away some of the Horsemen as well. Bloodletters getting in here. Another Searing Doom going to pop from that Metal Sorcerer, Shaman Sorcerer, but mostly misses. Still is enough, perhaps. I mean, the Hellforge Host kind of in and out of disintegration there. Looks like the Bloodthirster did end up falling. No, not quite yet. Another Plague of Rust, perhaps, down below 400 HP. Making a final stand, trying to finish off that Metal Sorcerer. Did he? He did terrify him away below 300 HP. It's pretty unlikely that he's going to come back at this point, but we'll see. Bloodthirster falls, and it's going to have to be the Lord of Khorne versus a host of horsemen, most likely, considering the Hellforge Host and the other Bloodletters are also actively disintegrating as they fall amongst the corpses of the hounds, burst into flames. All that's left is this guy right here. Oh yeah, the Lord of Khorne, somehow slightly smaller than the Horsemen, despite being on a Juggernaut, which I do feel that perhaps the Juggernauts should be a little bit larger than just Norscan horses, but there you go. He's going to hold out for some time in this exact situation, so let's zoom to the wide view, cue up the Benny Hill music, and pop fast forward, because this will take some time. Very effective cycle charge, I will say, by Rocket Brew here. Maybe a little bit over blobbing. I might not do all of these units at the same time. I might do only like 3 or 4 of them at the same time. Especially the Beasts of Tashnar are going to be the most aggressively cycle charging, but eventually they rout here. The Marauder Horsemen are doing quite a bit of damage. The Horse Masters, I mean, they're definitely not pushovers in terms of stats, despite the lack of AP, but notice, and I will come back here into real speed to point something out. This right here, this Icon of Endless War, essentially giving the Khorne Lord more or less perfect vigor. If we take a look at kind of the tooltip here, it should show Yeah, still fresh. Maybe, yeah, completely fresh. So he essentially has perfect vigor as long as he's in melee with this Icon of Endless War. And that does mean that 130 armor is still holding true. He's up to 104 melee attack, 633 weapon strength. He's temporarily 104 melee attack there. But just absolutely juiced to the gills and still fighting fresh. And that vigor is so critical. If he was exhausted at this point, he definitely would have lost. I mean, just the armor debuff alone would have been enough to make a difference in damage, not to mention all of the other debuffs that come with being exhausted. But because of that vigor, he barely is just able to hold out until the end and take the victory home for the Blood Gods. So what a game. Big thanks to Coops for sending that one in. Really, really awesome game. Number of huge things there. I mean, number one thing, obviously, is the Chaos Sword of Khorne carrying in the end there, but definitely Bloodthirster contributing, paying for itself on damage value. Great to see that, especially against the faction which kind of has a reputation of being a monster hunter faction. I mean, certainly if Norsca brought a specific build to counter the Bloodthirster, they probably could. I mean, Frostworm is a little bit of an awkward trade. I don't really know how that goes. Maybe with buffs, actually, the Frostworm would win with magic involved, but I'm not really sure. It remains to be seen, but regardless, love to see that. The Bloodletters ended up kind of doing their job of blending infantry, although they did struggle on value in many ways. Only one of them pays for themselves. Hound Force here as well. Also, I mean, tactically it does its job of catching the horsemen and slowing them down. Only a couple of them pay for themselves, but great performance by these two Khornate single entities. For Throg here, he definitely struggled. I mean, he had two very scary targets for him to deal with, so it's kind of to be expected to a degree. The Metal Sorcerer also, even though Khorne single entities do have magic resistance, it still can be worth it sometimes to bring Final Transmutation just to give you that extra kick, but I really like the Plague of Rust. Synergy with the Javelins. Javelins are all going to pay back some huge value on the Horsemasters and even the regular Horsemen as well. The Ice Trolls is the one pick. Is a pretty aggressive pick in this matchup, given the Khorne's, like, a lot of Khorne's power units especially have access to fire damage. I don't know, these guys are extra weak to fire, and it really makes them a liability, I think, here, more than an asset. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, but maybe these guys would have been better served to be like a couple of Famir, who, you know, have magic damage, armor sundering, some other stuff going on as well, so hard to say. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.